And so with that, we're really happy to have a couple of folks who are global experts in this field of healthcare blockchain that happen to be in the tri-state area. And we're going to hear a little bit about this. And again, if you have questions, just step up to the mics that are in the front of the theater, and we'd be happy to take those. But we want to make sure that as much as there's a lot of controversy right now around blockchain, we do want to make sure that we're looking at the latest evidence of blockchain in healthcare, what is actually being adopted, what is actually being used, because we know that there are use cases where people are using blockchain successfully in life sciences, in clinical trials, in some healthcare data warehousing. And so the more we learn how to use it appropriately and when to use it appropriately, the better off we're going to be. And so next is Rama Rao and Alex Cahana to talk a lot about blockchain in healthcare. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. We're really delighted to be over here and want to thank HITLAB and the entire team for this opportunity to be with you. And what we hope to do is demystify some of the issues associated with blockchain, at the same time, reinforce the importance of it in the healthcare world, especially in clinical trials. Yeah. I have Dr. Cahana with me. I've been running Bloqcube, which is one of the few pioneers in the area of clinical trial software. And for those cognoscenti over here, we're putting rails for Web3 in the future. But just like one wants to run the New York Marathon, there's no point talking about it when you are basically running 100 yards. And that's what we're trying to do and get that right now. I have Dr. Cahana. So how we'll start is I'd like Dr. Cahana to introduce himself. And because I might go well over the allotted time if I have to start the introductions. Dr. Cahana.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you, HITLAB, for having me. And thank you for being in this session. I'm a pain physician by training. I've always been interested in technology integration in the clinical workflow. And I got exquisitely interested in blockchain and decentralized technologies back in 2013. Took me about, I would say, 2 years to understand it, then wrote a book about it, became an industry leader, which landed me a position at the United Nations as an expert for healthcare and blockchain. And I've been finding myself actually helping countries, mostly in emerging economies in Africa and in Latin America, I would say leapfrogging from Web 1 to Web 3 technologies.
Thanks, Alex. So in the recent past, there's been a lot of talk, as Stan said in the morning, about decentralized clinical trials, the famous DCT, the acronym. Given your experience and expertise, what do you see what DCT is and isn't in today's world?
Well, I think that one of the things that COVID did to us is that we realized whatever we call this, both in healthcare and in life science, this is not working. Be it supply chain and figure out how many hand sanitizers we need or how much toilet paper is missing, all the way to understanding, clinical trials and accelerating drug discovery. And so this idea of virtualization, using telehealth, doing things remotely from home, be it education, shopping, became almost natural that, hey, why don't we also do remote clinical trials? And with the hope that that would be more inclusive, easier. There are some technological adaptations that need to be done, and we can leverage upon them. It's unfortunate that it's called decentralized because maybe it's decentralized from a perspective of the process itself, but really what decentralization is about the organization, management, and governance of the data. Because what people call DCT is just virtual, remote, at home, or at facility clinical trial, which is not bad, but it's not decentralized. And what is decentralized in my head, and I'll finish with this, is that the problem of centralization is that it is attack vulnerable, sensor vulnerable, and collusion vulnerable. So we saw states, for example, that don't report exactly COVID. We saw different agencies manipulate numbers. That is the danger when things are done behind closed doors, when they're centralized. Decentralization of that, be it permissioned or completely permissionless, where anybody and everybody can see it, that is a different game, which makes it, of course, hack resistant, collusion and cessna resistant. And that's what decentralization means. And to that matter, Bloqcube and other companies that are working with that type of tech stack are offering this type of data management.
So let me get to the elephant in the room, which is FTX. So given you're a blockchain expert also, what are your views on the FTX saga and its implication for blockchain in healthcare?
Yeah, what can I say? I think I wrote in one of my LinkedIn posts, and you're all invited to look at my LinkedIn posts, that, this type of fraud does not basically mean that crypto or blockchain is fraudulent. Fraud is fraud is fraud. I think that it is extremely unfortunate because 99 or 98.9% of people don't know what blockchain is. And now because of this story, now they think, okay, blockchain is SBF, and it's called kind of like a cesspool that reminds us of 2008, which really puts a big shadow on all the work that we've been doing since. I think that there's nothing crypto or blockchain specific to what FTX did, and we can have a separate conversation. I don't want to waste too much time on that. The reason why everybody knows it is because blockchain is transparent. So people can look on chain and see what happened, and that things are found in real life. Anybody who goes after crypto Twitter knows in real time who's stealing money, whereas when it happens with banksters, nobody knows what happens, behind the scenes in our illustrious bank and financial system. So I think that it is unfortunate because it has created a reputational damage. The good thing about it is it'll increase the interest and scrutiny of regulation. I hope that the regulation will be permissive and not prohibitive, like in other countries like Switzerland or the UK, where they create sandbox to experiment. And I would like you to think of it more as an emerging technology with new types of business models. Now we can think of new ways, because we're in this world where data is the asset, to do things in a different way as opposed to what we're doing right now.
Kind of makes sense, a lot of sense. And there have been people, I think, for example, the Wall Street Journal had an article on FTX, very similar to what you talked about, which is you need to delink the two and look at it as a fraud in a fraud sense, more than the blockchain related.
I just think that, like things, nobody knew about the metaverse until Zuckerberg said Meta. But his vision of Meta is antithetical to what the world of the metaverse is trying to design, just as much as what SBF did is antithetical to what we're trying to build with decentralized finance, decentralized health, and the use cases in health that we do these decentralized technologies.
And that's an interesting point, and that takes me to my other question relating to Web3. So that's considered another area of growth. And how would you see Web3 from a layman's perspective, and how would that help? Or how would we be able to apply it in the area of healthcare for diversity or equity, in healthcare?
Yeah, the problem with these things is that these are technical terms that are described by technologists. And I find it as a non-technologist myself to kind of understand what it is. So the explanation I explained, the explanation I gave myself, what is Web3, is what is the number that comes after a web. So, there's the real world, we're here now, and then there's the digital world, all the signals that now we're procuring, including the recording of our talk. In Web 1.1 that started in the 90s, we were just passive, we looked at it. So the computer was the digital representation of, I don't know, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. It was static, there was nothing, it was read only. Web 2, which we live now, is read and write. So we're a little bit more interactive. We're uploading, we're downloading, we're posting, we're microblogging. The problem is that the data belongs to the platforms that we use. And so they are owning the data, they're owning my activity, they're not paying me anything, or if they're paying me, it's a fraction of its value. And so Web3, to that extension, is that I'm being part of it. And so we see it either in blockchain where data becomes a digital asset that we call token, and then I own part of the internet, which is kind of pretty cool to say, oh, okay, so the data I gave 23andMe actually, belongs to me, so I should get royalties from it. But also in the sense of the metaverse, where we're moving into the realm of the phygital, with, we have the extended realities or immersive technologies, where I'm here, but I'm not here, and transported into that world where the computer or the desktop or the mobile or the internet is the portal into that digital world. Web 4, in that, if we follow that logic, Web 4 would be, I'm actually inside the internet, using brain computer interface. I'm just thinking about it. I'm already in, a little bit kind of like Matrix, and Web 5, if you wish, I am the internet, and be Elon Musk and I'm the simulation. But I would say that Web 3 is really the more inclusive. I'm not the product of all these platforms. I actually am in a creator economy. I have value, and I receive monetary and non-monetary rewards for the creation.
And how would you see that being applied to the world for diversity and equity?
Well, I think that is the most important question, because the current model, by its design of centralization, is extractive, exploitative, and extractionary. So all these diverse populations are vulnerable populations. We see them in the emerging markets. They're unbanked, they're underbanked. They don't participate in the economic activity that most of us participate in. So this is actually their vehicle of being inclusive, their vehicle to be part of that creator economy, and not say, well, because you don't have enough credit score, or because of you're not from the right ancestry, you can't come into this economic club we live in.
So that takes me now into something more specific. And what are your thoughts in terms of seeing the implication of these technologies in, let's say, rare diseases, for example, where you might have a genetic abnormality in only 9 cases all over the world, or 50 cases or 30 cases, or even more specifically in oncology or neurology, given your medical background?
So I want to divide this, my answer, into 2. I'll preface by stating that, first of all, the use cases of decentralized technologies and distributed ledger technology like blockchain, but also federated learning and privacy preserving technologies, from easy to hard, would be supply chain, that everybody understands. This real-time, demand only, I don't have any buffer kind of changes. The next would be, I would say, identity, self-sovereign identity, credentialing, verifiable credentialing, this movement of professionals from state to state, from country to country, very powerful things that are happening in the United Nations, in the World Food Program, in the WHO. Decentralized clinical trials, again, when it comes to automating and improving operations, that's an easy sell. But when it changes the business model fundamentally, that needs adoption. The next one would be electronic health records, which is really the hot ticket, because that's where all the data sits. And then, of course, for me, what is called DAO, decentralized autonomous organizations, which is a fancy way of saying that is the digital community that you live in. And that is where the second part of the question is, so what does it do for rare diseases and also and oncologics and expensive, treatments that have very small communities? So it changes the way we interact with each other, and it changes the way we fund it. And why do we need to change it? Because if today I'm in a Facebook group, or I'm in Reddit, or I don't know what, the moderator can just shut me off. Whereas in this type of decentralized community, you have that voice and you have rules of how to behave and not to behave. So
then let me go to my last question. And given the end users that you're seeing and companies like Bloqcube or other companies, how do you see the canvas? How do you see people applying this in real life today?
well, first of all, I want to congratulate you because, you woke up before everybody else, everybody's waking up now. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. You're what, since 4 o'clock in the morning doing stuff. So you've built and it's waiting and it's ready. So now it's really doing these educational efforts to try to cut through the noise, to try to understand that DCT, what you're saying is not what DCT is. So what is it? Is it crypto? No, it's not crypto, it's blockchain, but it's blockchain I'm hearing. So there's a lot of education, a lot of information that and various degrees of veracity. And so I see that it'll be more of an evolution rather than a revolution, of a transition from maybe a Web 2, we're now 2.5, to a Web 3. And so that I think I always imagine myself, we're going to be here in 2032 and say, can you remember that in 2022, we were actually, this is how we did it, and this is how we paid for drugs, and users were not considered as early investors through tokens in the drugs that they help promote. So just like when I started being involved in technology, we were called the, what was it? The information superhighways. Like, what the hell is that? And we don't call it anymore. We will have different terminologies, and we will remember these times with a lot of fondness.
Thanks, Alex. Really appreciate that. Do we have, let me check, do we have time for any questions? Otherwise, we'll take questions. One question. Yes, sir.
Be gentle.
So kind of a follow-up question. So is it a use case if you don't own the community or you don't have control or even influence over the community? Does the entire community have to participate in order to have a use case that's of any value?
So that's a great question. And I would say that there are no communities that are alike. And some communities are more engaged and other communities are less engaged. The point of this type of digitizing the community is to value a lot of activity that currently is not captured, and to promote or incentivize positive behavior and disincentivize poor behavior. So if we take, let's say that we have now the HITLAB group of listeners to this innovative summit. Okay, there's a lot of creative content here. Now, what's the business case for doing this? Just doing this because we want to learn, because we want to share, because we're nice people. That's very hard to capture, and it's very hard to value it. But if we would have, for example, a token, we'd use a stand token. And if you would say, okay, this was a great talk, we get a lot of tokens, or you would participate and ask a lot of questions, and you would get a lot of tokens. It would give us a sense of the exchange of the value of the activity that we're doing anyway.
Very good. Thanks.
Well, I think that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for your attention. Appreciate it. Oh.
Thank you, Tori.
Thank you.
She's a powerhouse.
Appreciate it.
Go to Tori.
Yeah. Thanks, Tori.